playing a couple shows in Florida, and then we're going up to. What was that?
That was that monitor fucking problem that I
that's
keep
right.
having. I just forgot to unplug it.
Right. Hey,
Hey,
it's our sophomore effort.
It's live-ish. Welcome to Life's Greatest Hits. I'm Jason Earle.
And I am Jordan Foley.
Here's how it goes. We do a vinyl swap each month. We lend each other an album in physical format from our personal collection, particularly one we think the other guy doesn't know all that well or maybe hasn't heard at all. We spend the entire month listening to the album physically, do our research, and jot down our thoughts, and then we get together to discuss each album. The conversation could go anywhere, but we mainly focus on what we think of the album, any takeaways that we learned, and where the listening ultimately took us. We give each other half the time of the episode to talk about the albums we were given, and then go from there. So Jordan, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
Episode 2.
I know, here we are.
I
Making it happen.
I'm so excited, dude. We had Shooter Jennings himself listen to our first episode and share it, which was such a thrill.
That's wild. I'm still flabbergasted by that.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That, like, the fact that he took a moment to be like, you guys went deep. Thank you for going deep on Twitter and whatnot. Like,
Yeah.
that's
He
awesome.
mentioned it on
So,
Twitter. He shared a clip on Instagram. Just
Yeah.
really, really cool stuff, man. So
Yeah. Shout out to Shooter.
yeah, hell yeah, Shooter. Thank you so much. Hopefully we made a lifelong listener out of you, and you're checking this one out too. Jordan and I are collaborating on this project, but we each have our own things going on. So Jordan, what's going on with you?
We got a lot going on right now. Just released 2 new singles.
Hell yeah.
I have a solo EP coming out September 20th. So released 2 singles from that EP. The first one is called You Know. It's been out for a few weeks now. And then I just released Fall Like Rain, which is another, acoustic song that I'm really proud of that I wrote around the pandemic time, the times of the pandemic, the era. And that's pretty exciting. And then on top of that, I'm going on tour, which is cool, in September to go with my buddy Kyle Keller. We are hitting the Southeast area, going up, playing a couple shows in Florida, and then we're going up to. What was that?
That was that monitor fucking problem that I
that's
keep
right.
having. I just forgot to unplug it.
Right. Hey,
Hey,
it's our sophomore
it's
effort.
It's live.
Yeah, we're live. This is how it goes. So wait, let me back up.
You're going on tour with Kyle.
Yes, I'm going on tour with Kyle Keller. We are hitting the road, playing a few shows here in Florida. Then we go up to North Carolina, playing a show in Southern Pines. And then we're going to Knoxville, playing the Blue Plate Special, WDVX. And then we go to Nashville. We play a show at Cambria Hotel in downtown Nashville. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Man, I'm so happy for you. Fall
you.
Like Rain is gorgeous, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and
Thank
the video's dope. Like, it seems like the response online, from what I've observed so far, people are really connecting with it.
Thank you. The video is really cool. If you have a chance, I'm standing to watch it on YouTube. I'm standing in front of a projector screen that's playing a bunch of visuals of falling rain, and it's actually kind of a callback to nobody. Like, nobody knows this, but it's a callback to high school. I was in a photography class, and I took a photo of myself. We use like black and white film.
Yeah.
I took a photo of myself with a guitar in front of a photo of me playing guitar.
Oh, dope. Yeah,
and
yeah.
So like I was like, well, that's a cool little callback to myself that nobody else knows.
That's
but the
cool,
video's
man.
out. Yeah, so check that out.
Yeah.
Very excited.
That's awesome, dude. Good.
How about you? How about you?
Yeah, I've got a lot of cool stuff going on. I have just released a few episodes that I'm incredibly proud of. I had my conversation with Boulevards, and if you have not listened to Boulevards, y'all, make sure you rectify that. Really cool guy, and just an incredible record that he just put out this year. We had a great conversation. We talked about sobriety. We talked about running. We talked about how creativity is affected by those things.
That's awesome.
Just really connected, I feel like, on a deep level, and that was amazing. I also talked with Rich Ruth, whose record this year is one of my favorites. And that was cool for me because I so often am trying to, both of those, I'm so often trying to get outside of just Americana music when I'm having guests on, right?
Sure.
I get it. The bulk of what I do is going to be geared toward that, and I love it. But it's really cool to have back-to-back guests who I don't think any. I mean, I guess you could sort of call Boulevard's Americana, but not really. It's funk, it's soul. You know, it's a little bit of everything. So that was cool. Just released an episode with Chris Robeson, whose record Euphorophobia is so good, and I'm really happy with the response to that. I just got an email from somebody today talking about that particular episode and how they connected with it, and then like suggesting other artists that he thought that I might enjoy.
Yeah.
So really grateful for that. And then it has now been announced that the great John Moreland, by the time y'all hear this, my episode with John Moreland will be released, and holy shit, is it an all-timer.
It is. I had the wonderful opportunity to listen to this episode as soon as it happened. You called me. Yep. And we got to talk about it, and I was happy to make. I made some videos for you to share. To introduce.
I'm so grateful, dude.
Man,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
I mean, it's so cool that you got to spend that type of quality time with a singer-songwriter that both of us really admire and respect. I mean, his album is arguably one of my favorites of the year.
Visitors is my favorite
so
of
good.
the year. Yeah.
I got to see him finally at the beginning of the year, and with my fiance Mariah, and she can attest that I cried my eyes out the entire time. So,
yeah.
John Moreland goes a long way for me. So I'm very, very excited to hear that episode.
Thanks, man.
Out, once it's out.
Everybody. Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a dream come true. I mean, when I started the Marinade, and I guess I should have led with my main creative gig is the Marinade with Jason Earle.
Right. Oh yeah.
Most of y'all probably know that, but I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited for folks to hear this episode, because when I started the Marinade, he was on my short list of dream guests. You know, he was there with names, big names, and I think John has gotten to a place where his profile has increased so much at this point that he certainly belonged in that category with his art, but now thankfully people are paying attention.
Yeah, and he's active too. It's cool that he's more active than I think he's ever been.
And we talked about that during the episode, if you remember. So folks, definitely make sure you listen. That episode will be out by the time you hear this. All right, let's get into the show, man.
Let's do it.
So, you gave me Zach Bryan's American Heartbreak.
I did.
And
I did. 30 songs. It was my way of getting back to you, getting back at you after diving into Black Ribbon. So
yeah. Well, it's funny. I was re-listening to what I gave to you, which we'll talk about in a minute, and I was realizing that was a hell of a homework assignment again.
It was.
So
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. That's kind of part of the deal, I think, that we're doing here.
Too. Make it a challenge.
Yeah. So I was I didn't think you were going to choose this one for me because I think you've heard me say before that I'm not particularly a Zach Bryan fan. I don't say anything disparaging about him or anything like that. I've just always kind of said I don't know. It doesn't hit for me or whatever, So I listened to this record. This is 30 songs, y'all. If you don't know this record, it is 30 songs long. And I had to have listened to it 10 times at least.
Wow.
I did my research, and then I went back into his catalog. So there's kind of 3 buckets that I want to talk about here. Okay, so
all right.
I'm gonna teacher you here. I'm gonna present this like a lesson, right? So the first thing I'm gonna talk about is sort of I get the appeal of him and I understand why people love him. Okay, and then what I want to talk about is the fact that I just don't think he's for me. And then finally, probably most importantly, I want to talk about why I think he's really good for the culture, okay, and why I think he's a really important artist.
Those are some pretty good buckets already. I'm looking forward to you to opening these up. Let's go.
All right, so why people love him. First of all, he just seems like a very approachable dude. He seems like a regular guy who sells out stadiums. Right? He seems like a very normal guy, somebody that you'd want to crack a beer. He passes the I want to have a beer with him test, right? That they say when they talk about presidents. And it's I totally get the appeal of that. When we connect with artists, I struggle to listen to artists whose personalities I don't really dig, right? Separating the art from the artist is an ongoing conversation. And a lot of times if somebody just seems kind of like a dick or like somebody that I don't want to connect with, I'm not going to dial up their music as much, and I'm hesitant to spend that extra $1 on them, right? we spend a ton of money on physical copies of records and concert tickets, merch. You know, you and I are constant, like we're hemorrhaging cash.
Merch fiends.
Yeah, for all
Big-time
this
merch
stuff, right?
fiends,
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
It's a problem.
it's an issue. Like,
BJ Barham just came out with that Praise
Raise
Dale.
Dale.
I
Yeah.
got that shirt.
Yeah, of course
I'm like,
you did.
come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
we got to slow this down.
Yeah, yeah. It's, I mean, but we want to do it, right? I don't
sure.
mind spending my hard-earned money on hardworking people who are easy to connect with, like BJ, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think Zach Bryan, it makes sense to me that he's a megastar on that level because he does seem like someone you could connect with. I would love to sit down and talk to him. I'd love to have him on the show, you know, despite what I'm about to say, right? I'd love to have him on the Marinade because I think he seems like a really interesting guy and seems like a sweet guy. So beyond that, his sense of melody is like enviable. I write songs, as most of our listeners know, and as you know, as a serious hobby. And one of the things I really struggle with when writing songs is melody. I can write words, I can tell you a story, but when I go to try to put that, and when I grab my guitar, it's like I kind of have a sense of what the melody should be. I kind of have a sense of where it should go, and it doesn't always work. You know, I've got books full of songs that don't have really any structure to them melodically. I don't know where to go with them. And when you listen to Zach Bryan, specifically on American Heartbreak, those songs are sing-along songs. You know, those songs are like it carries you. It carries you along, and I totally get why that translates then to an arena show, a stadium show. You know, I totally get why there's such an appeal, you know, to this man's music because of that sense of melody. The other thing that I really like about this record and about all of his records, and this goes probably to what I was saying earlier about sort of how he's easy to connect with, is that he sings with conviction. He believes. I feel what he's saying. I feel like he really fucking believes it. He gets lost in the characters that he's talking about. They seem to mostly be composites of his life, but he also writes some character songs that are outside of his existence. On this record, there's a couple of songs that are pretty far outside of, like, you know, even older characters that he's singing from the perspective of and that kind of thing. And I believe every word he's saying. And, you know, you can't fake that shit. We talk a lot, especially in Americana music and folk music, about authenticity. We overuse that word, perhaps. But in this case, it seems very real. He seems like the real deal. He seems like who he says he is. Okay? And I think that is why people connect with the person. That's why people connect with the songs. And there's just, you can't manufacture that. You can't fake it. You're either in it and honestly in it, or you're not. And this guy, Zach Bryan, seems like, especially on this record, it seems like he's doing exactly what he wants to do. That also translates to selling out fucking stadiums, which is awesome. You know? So,
sure.
You know, that's a big one for me. There's also something you and I talk about when we think about the craft. And I talk about this a lot on the Marinade as well with songwriters, is that throughout the record, despite the fact that I probably won't dial it up again after this.
Well, you listened to it 10 times.
Yeah, I've already, yeah.
And if you have the feelings that you have, that might be a factor. But I get it.
Yeah. Probably won't listen to it again.
Like, all right, I'm Zach Bryan out.
Yeah. But but I think one of the things that we've talked about before and that came through on this record is there are these really strong lines. And you and I have talked about it in the context of the aforementioned John Moreland and how Moreland will I don't want to give away how he describes him in the episode that I recorded with him. You got to listen to that. But that will just punch you in the nuts.
Yeah.
You know? And Zach's got a lot of those. They aren't quite I don't think he's at that level yet that John Moreland level yet in terms of his writing ability, which is what I'm going to kind of get into here in a second. But there are a few really good songs. I mean, really, really good. And I'm going to use my cheat sheet, which is the actual physical copy of the record right now. Tisha Mingo is maybe my favorite song on the record.
Same.
Really good song.
Yep.
Great story. Absolutely beautiful. I'm really, really impressed.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'd heard Something in the Orange a million times. I mean, that one's big enough. It's at the grocery store and shit. It's undeniably good, right? Like, there's a reason.
It is my, like, at gigs that I play, the bar gigs, that's the song that I play at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's undeniably good. There's a reason why it's so famous. And it speaks to, I feel like that one really encapsulates the appeal of Zach Bryan.
Sure.
Great song. So those two are probably my two favorite songs on this. There are a few others that land for me, but this record is 30 songs long. There are maybe 10 that I really connect with, 5 that I think are fantastic.
That's solid, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess there's my gripe with him. Okay? Is like I had to wade through 30 songs to get to 10 that I like and 5 that I really connected with. And I get it. I know every artist like wishes they could just put out as many records as possible, right?
Yeah.
You go through the process. You're still going through the process right now of working on a record, and you know how much goes into it. Folks listening, many of you are musicians. Those of you who aren't or who don't know, making a record is a lot of fucking work.
It's not easy.
And there's just a lot of moving parts. A lot of people get involved.
A lot of money spent.
And so, you know.
A lot of money spent.
Yeah.
I just like had like a really like sad moment right there. Like, damn, I spent so much money.
Oh no, this is supposed to be the happy show, Jordan.
Let's change.
The marinade's where we get sad.
The music industry. Yeah, exactly.
Your songs are where we get sad.
You took me to a place.
And I just think like, you know, I get it. If I had that many songs, I've written probably 30 songs in my whole damn life, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I guess if I had 30 songs and I had a chance to put them out, I had the means and the ability to put them out, yeah, I'd put out 30 songs.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
So I get it. Like, I can't begrudge him for that,
Yeah.
right? It's just that for me, I feel like, especially given what I'm going to say at the tail end of this conversation and how important I think he is as an artist, given that, I'd kind of would have rather, in this case, that he just put out the 10 that are undeniable, and you know, maybe shelve those other ones for like a rarities record or something like that. That would have made a lot of sense to me. I think that the ones that I don't connect with feel like a young man writing songs, you know, so I wonder if there's a generational thing too for me, where the emotions that I'm going through as a man past 40 are very different from the emotions that I went through in my 20s. And it's valuable to document those emotions in your 20s. It's valuable to sing about them. I revisit a lot of things that I liked in my 20s, and there's a nostalgia to it, but there isn't the same emotional connection in a lot of ways. And what I predict will happen with Zach Bryan is that in his 30s, he's going to be writing some absolute heaters. And the kind of heaters that everybody can connect to that are like on, I just think as much as this man works, as much as he writes, I think that he's destined for a career where he is just writing incredible, you know, heartfelt music. If he continues to do what he's doing, which is touring hard, writing a lot, also using his platform for some good, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. Overall, I don't necessarily connect with this record, but I think it's really important. Now, I listened to his other stuff. This is my least favorite of his records.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
yep.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You know.
The new one, Great American Bar Scene. Again, don't think I'm going to buy a vinyl.
I already pre-ordered it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna buy the vinyl, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. The self-titled is probably my favorite of his records.
Yeah. I think for me, Great American Bar Scene, I think is his best work yet.
And that one I might need to spend more time with too.
Yeah.
Like I only listened to it one time.
Sure. Like I took that and Johnny Blue Skies.
Yeah.
And I put that on a playlist and just hit shuffle because they were both coming out at the same time, and it was a great mix.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was a great mix because it's like you're getting. I don't want to take over, but that was something that like with Great American Bar Scene in particular, like you're literally listening to an already well established great.
Yeah.
And then somebody who is great in everybody's eyes, like you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, and who is developing and prospering because of it.
Cool. I like that exercise, and I may do that.
I'll send you the link.
That would be great. Thanks, man. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And I think, ultimately, he's writing a lot of young love songs. And
absolutely.
I've been through plenty of young love.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the young love is so different from middle-age love. I mean, it is so fucking different. And so, like, I think it's nice, but I don't necessarily – I'm trying to be careful not to overly romanticize the past in my own life so that I'm looking forward. That's something I keep thinking about is, like, living in the present and looking forward. I never want to get to a place in my life where I'm like, in my day, I used to be able to and rattle off a list of all these things that I could do at some point. I want to focus on what I can do now. And moving forward. And so I think a lot of times when I listen to his music, he's doing the things that I, except he's a megastar, but he's doing the things that I did in my 20s, and so that's great. It's just hard for me to connect with, I think, on that level. I heard somebody on the internet describe him as Taylor Swift for bros.
That's
And I think that fits, and I don't connect with Taylor, right? And so it made sense to me when somebody put it that way. Although I feel like I said some version of that at some point, and maybe I started that trend. But I feel like I sound like Donald Trump right now, like taking credit for some shit that maybe I
decided that Zach Bryan is the Taylor Swift for bros.
But I think ultimately, I'm glad I spent time with the record, and I'm glad I spent time with his songs. My last point that I want to make, I think he's incredibly good for the culture. He's incredibly good for music. He's specifically really good for country music. He's not a Morgan Wallen or a Jason Aldean. He's not some guy out there openly being a bigot. He's not out there making shitty records. He's making records that I may not connect with, but that are undeniably really good. He is writing about real things. He's not, I got a dog in a truck and a solo cup.
Yep.
Right? He sings about that lifestyle, but from a place of conviction, from a place where you feel like he's for real, got his dog and his truck and his solo cup, and he's got something to say beyond that, right? And I think that's really important. The fact that this guy is selling out stadiums, the fact that this guy's on a stadium tour, arena tour, that he is connecting with that many fans, and also, this is huge for me, that he's bringing along Jason Isbell on tour.
Yeah. That
he is recording songs with John Moreland.
Yep.
Those guys, to me, are generational songwriters that no one has outside of our bubble, right? And our bubble's pretty big, but this sort of Americana world, our corner of the internet, a lot of folks didn't know who Jason Isbell was until the DNC, right?
Yeah, that's wild.
It is wild.
That's wild.
It is wild. The closest thing to a viral tweet I've ever had was because I said something about it, which was funny. And I just think that, like, we need more Zach Bryans, you know? Yeah. And there's a whole generation of young songwriters. Wyatt Flores is one that comes to mind that I don't necessarily, like, when I listen to a Wyatt Flores record, I'm like, all right, this kid's good. Again, I don't think it's for me. And that's okay.
Sure.
But I'm glad it's for somebody, and I'm glad there's a generation of people, you know, because Jason Isbell was that for me.
Yeah.
Right? Jason Isbell was in my 20s. John Moreland was in my 30s, but still, like, those guys, they were for me.
Yeah.
They're my age.
Yeah.
And and when I go back and listen to the old Isbell records, I still connect with them because I can put myself in that position. The world was as it was for me then, whereas his world, Zach's world, isn't as it was for me then. So I think that's probably the reason why ultimately I didn't connect with this record as much as maybe I'd like to. But I think we need more Zach Bryans. We need people who are singing with conviction, who can write, who are likable, who are not racist, at least openly. I hope he's not. He doesn't seem to be. No, yeah. Seems like a pretty good dude. So. And I like that he's using his platform to uplift these artists who came before him. And that's one of the things that I think with a lot of these guys is cool is that, when you listen to Zach, he's very clearly influenced by Tyler Childers. I don't know if he said that. I didn't find any interviews or anything where he said that, but there's no way around it. Like, he sounds like early Tyler Childers in so many ways. And honestly, I liked early Tyler, but I didn't connect with him until the last couple of records. Like, really connect with him. Now I think, like, this motherfucker's a generational talent, right? Now I think, like, this is a D'Angelo, Kendrick Lamar, Jason Isbell kind of, like, important artist. That's how I see him now. But those first couple of records, I just said, and I don't know if I've ever said that to you, but, like, I just kind of was like, yeah, he's cool. Like,
I knew that. Yeah, like, I remember you telling me that before.
Yeah, like, I dig it. But those last couple of records and then seeing him live. Yeah. Tyler live is a spiritual experience.
Yes.
And I think what I see for Zach is probably that trajectory. It's probably, like, a guy who right now is honing his craft. He's going to give you a 30-song behemoth of an album, 10 of which I'm going to connect with, 5 of which are going to really blow my mind. And then I can see 10 years from now, he's releasing the Horses and the Hounds kind of record, something like that. So ultimately, it's not for me, but I totally get it. And I'm glad I went on this journey, and I'm glad I thought about it. I'm glad you kind of had me. You pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit because I had sort of written him off. Yeah. And it made me think about him, and it made me think about what is it I don't connect with? Why don't I? Because he's undeniably good, and a lot of people like him. And it's not that he's, popular in a pop sense. He's popular in a people are really connecting with this man's music, and there's a reason why he's selling out arenas and stadiums. Yeah. So why was this one the one you chose?
A lot to unpack. There were so many moments where you were talking, and I was like, oh, I got to go back to this. So ultimately, I knew of your lack of, like, interest or, like, lack of, like, attempt at trying to dive into
it's fair.
The world that you're talking about with Tyler Childers and with, this, like, extra element of Americana. I think it goes to show that, like, even though, first of all, Americana is just so vast. Yeah. A sound, a genre. It's not just country. It's not just, it has soul and gospel, and it has, rock and roll, and it has, like, you ever listen to Treaty Oak Revival? They have this, like, they're not country to me. They're like, they have this, like, strong, heavy, like, 2000s rock and roll kind of attitude. So all that to say, like, with Zach Bryan in particular, I think for me personally, I jumped on the train before he became popular. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I found him, but it is true.
It's
like,
real, yeah.
I connected with his music way sooner than everybody before he blew up. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it wasn't even from his TikTok videos. Like, he had, some EPs out, and, they were just they're so raw. His music is so raw. At the end of the day, like, the sound that he's developing, it's full band live in the studio. They do one take,
which is pretty cool. You can definitely tell.
Exactly. You can tell, but it's like the fact that people are connecting to that. They want realness. They want that raw sound. And Zach Bryan is taking those elements of the old and the music that's well established.
Notice he said the old as he pointed at me.
No, the well-established music that we are already admiring and into, and he's creating his own path. He's not, and that's a nod to Sturgill Simpson too. Like, he wasn't getting a lot of radio play. He wasn't getting the so-called pop country treatment, you know, and me, I'm a bit rebellious against that. And so whenever there's an artist that comes up that is like that and is like, I'm doing my own thing, I just want to connect with people, and there is conviction, there is so much authenticity. Getting to see him, Zach Bryan and his band play at Greenville Country Music Fest a couple years ago with Tyler Hood. They, it was pouring down rain, and they played. This was like 2 days after their Red Rocks show that they came out with a live album for Red Rocks, and it was like freezing cold.
Yeah.
And in that album, and then at this music festival that we were at in South Carolina, he performed with such appreciation. There's such a like, you can tell, and this is coming from one artist to another, when somebody's up there and they feel like, wow, I can't believe I made it this far, or I can't believe that this is what I'm doing. And he just kept saying, thank y'all, like, I don't deserve this kind of attitude, kind of like appreciation, admiration for like what he's getting to do.
Yeah.
And that makes me connect with him even more, where I'm like, man, like you like feel it within your heart and your soul. Like what you said, like every word comes with strength. Now, I will say there are, I do agree with you to a level. There are some times where I will hear a Zach Bryan song and be like, oh, this kind of sounds like that song, or it kind of sounds like a song he's already done. So I try to find the elements of, what's new that he's doing, but he's still like the thematic elements, the topics, the way that he is presenting himself musically, in comparison to everybody else in the game right now. I just think it's beyond what everybody else is doing. When you talk about Morgan Wallen or Hardy, or these guys who are like, they're selling out arenas, but they're singing about drinking and partying and again, like the tailgate backwoods, like drinking out of a Solo cup, hanging out with my dog. Zach Bryan's like,
which hits, by the way. Like, I fucking love all that stuff. But don't sing about it as on the surface level. There's a culture to that. That's my point about him, like, being good for the culture, is like he's doing that shit too. But like, he represents, I guess he's not really a Southern man, but like he represents the South in a way, or like he represents sort of everyday people is a better way to put it.
I think there's more to what I think there's more lyrically and musically to what he is presenting. What he is coming out with is more than just that, more than just the bass. And especially with this pop country, bro country, whatever you want to call it, there is this sense of like, I want to, it almost feels like it's like, it's a pissing game, pissing match. Like, I want to be the most successful and get the most fans and make the most money. And I don't think Zach really wanted any of that. He just wanted to make music and hope that people enjoy it. And again, that kind of goes to like how I feel, where it's like, the music I'm making, it's for anybody who enjoys it and for myself. At the end of the day, like, if you listen to my music, awesome. I do push it. I try to get everybody to like, hey, tune in. Let me know what you think. But at the end of the day, I'm more focused on getting somewhere with the people who believe in it, rather than like mass sales, mass like success. The success is the music that I'm making. And so I think that shines through in what Zach is coming out with. I do agree to I love all of his albums. And like we were talking about, the Great American Bar Scene, his self-titled, this one, like they all do hit and resonate with me, obviously, like if I have it. But there are songs that are, if you haven't like done a total dive, there is that level of like, okay, well, these handful of songs are really good because you can tell that they're like, well produced. They're like, well lit. They have something that's really like
well lit. I like that.
Yeah, like it's hitting you. Like you're like, oh, all right, that's a jam.
Yeah.
Whereas his other ones might not feel that way or sound that way. But I think it's because the minute a Zach Bryan song comes out, I'm like, I need to hear it. I want to hear it. I want to hear how it is, how it sounds, and then I'm already diving into it. And so then whenever there's a full album that comes out, also, again, going back to the idea that this is 30 songs, like I think that it's Zach's like tongue-in-cheek way of being like, I'm doing this because I have these songs to give.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you know, the universal, other, pop country artists who are getting like radio play, you're doing it for different reasons, and you're writing songs that are not like hitting close to home. I think, the most popular one would be Jelly Roll, who is making songs that are like closer to home, hit you in the feels kind of deal. That's like his avenue, So I just think that Zach Bryan, like in comparison, he is on his own playing field in that realm of country music. And yeah, I think, as somebody who I'd like to think I'm a part of this, Americana industry, the boom of it all. To see somebody have that much success from something so raw and like so just from the heart and so like simplistic compared to like overproduced.
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes for me.
Yeah.
That's why I appreciate
inspiring
it. So
for you.
It's definitely inspiring. Yeah. And, I do agree too that like there is a heavy influence. You said that like you mentioned like, there are going to be other artists that are going to come up listening or sounding similar to there already are.
Which I think is great, by the way. I want to be clear that like I think it's great.
But you're right. It does actually stem back to Tyler Childers, because that sound is something that Tyler, like the minute I heard Nose to the Grindstone, it was like, oh, this is a whole new thing.
And
like,
Tyler heavily influenced by Jason Isbell,
exactly.
and Isbell heavily, like there's.
I mean, Sturgill produced, Childers. So like, again, there's that like lineage of the heavy hitters that we are already looking up to. This guy, Zach Bryan, is right there with us.
Yeah.
So while he might be younger, he might be like, like you said, singing about love that maybe we aren't connecting with, or like, he's singing about stuff that like don't necessarily resonate with, an older generation or somebody who isn't in their 20s per se, because I'm not either.
Right.
There is still that level of like, I think I just love the fact that I can put on a Zach Bryan record and like have a few beers with my friends, or like just hang out around the house and cook dinner. Like the different places I can listen to Zach Bryan, I could take his shit anywhere.
Cool.
So that was something big for me. Ultimately, it wasn't necessarily this album. It was more the idea of like introducing you down a path that like you haven't totally ventured into.
Yeah. And I appreciate the assignment, man. I mean, I never want my world to shrink. I never want I never want to become stubborn in my interests, and I never want to. It's why I fight so hard being pigeonholed as the Americana podcast, with the Marinade. Is I'm like, no, there's so much that I'm into. There's so much out there that I want to experience, such a range of emotions that I want to be a part of. And so I'm grateful that you gave me the assignment. And like, I do think I'll probably listen to the self-titled, and now that you mentioned that about Great American Bar Scene, I think I will sit and spend more quality time with it. I just listened to it once.
Yeah. Great American Bar Scene is just like, I mean, I love a good dive bar. I love a good billiards bar. I don't even really shoot pool a whole lot, but I love the characters, the aesthetic of it. Yeah. And he really painted a brilliant picture for that album. So
cool. Yeah. All right, so I gave you LP's Cancer for Cure.
Switching gears.
Yeah. What'd you think, buddy?
Man, so I will dive into this, in the same manner, because I once was a teacher as well. That it's these conversations that we keep having are becoming more and more about, the artist as well. Like what we're talking about with Zach Bryan, there's a level of like, we're obviously doing our research about who we're listening to, or not just taking the time to listen to this album alone, So I have a couple things first before I really do dive into Cancer for Cure. Nice. I first came across Run the Jewels at Bonnaroo in 2013, I think.
So that had been right when they started.
Yes. They just started. And that shit was bananas.
Yeah.
Like, I had only heard like one or two of their songs before going, because when I don't know if you've done this when you go to Bonnaroo or any big music festivals, but you go through the lineup and you see like, who don't I know? Run the Jewels was one of those acts where I was like, who the hell is Run the Jewels? First of all, cool name. Second of all, what am I getting into? So Run the Jewels, big fan. My favorite Run the Jewels album is our TJ4. That's just, I don't know, it resonated with me. It was during the pandemic. I blasted that shit in my apartment all the time for weeks on end. So big fan of RTJ just in general. Big shout out to LP and Killer Mike. They're such a dynamic duo. What they've created and what they've established as on their own, especially. But when you take two amazing artists and you combine them together, and it's so well produced and so well versed, it goes a long way. So already was a big Run the Jewels fan. However, I didn't really dive into LP's music beforehand. I didn't know the story behind LP connecting with Killer Mike. I didn't know that LP was also a producer and produced all the music, and I didn't know all these things. So that was a big factor with LP, was getting to dive into his history and his past and knowing where he's coming from. And that leads me to kind of talk about the style of rap. It's different. It's this style. I mean, and I'll name some other rappers that I think fall into this category.
Okay.
Aesop Rock.
Okay.
Atmosphere. Greaves.
I don't know Greaves.
Recommended.
Okay.
Very much like up the avenue of Atmosphere.
Okay.
So there's this. I always looked at it as like intellectual. Not that other rap is like.
Sure.
It's not
conscious
dumb.
rap.
Yeah, it's conscious rap. Thank you. I was trying to think of like what.
Yeah, there's.
What would I call it without sounding like an asshole?
Yeah.
So like I used to call it intellectual rap because it just sounds so like it's like really highly intelligent. They're saying things that are like making me think about stuff that I didn't think about before. And I, for one, big Aesop Rock fan. None Shall Pass is probably my favorite rap song of all time. Come to find that LP was on that same album. So like that was cool to kind of like to dive into his, what he's produced, who he's produced with, who he's worked with. That was really, really, really cool. Yeah. Going into this album, I spent a lot of time with this album, but I will be honest, I spent time with the first disc. I thought it was, I don't know why, but like when you spend time with an album, you spend time away from looking at it on Spotify and seeing the whole list.
Yep.
So I thought for weeks that it was a one disc LP. I did not, I don't know why, but I just like didn't go to look at the second one until we were supposed to record this last weekend. Or 2 weekends ago, I think. And I was like, oh shit, I need to listen to the second half. And I need more time. And so I dove into the second half pretty hard.
Okay.
And I got to say, it is my favorite part of the whole.
Yeah.
That was why I needed
agree.
more time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I need more time with this half of the album because I spent so much time with the first half. Now I'm like, okay, I want to hone in on this section.
Awesome.
So, that was really big, but it was funny because I feel like there's got to be more to this album, and come to find there was like a
little window into how the sausage is made, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So there was that, but in terms of LP, he's no bullshit. He's highly intelligent. Yeah. It's one of those types of rap, the way he brings words together. You can't tell if he's just thinking it up on the fly or if he's really delved into it. But I will say, it's obvious that he's delved into it. What I'm saying is that the way he presents it, it comes off so eloquently. Yeah. But with such grace and aggression at the same time. There's there's a rage to what he's saying, but there's also like just the way he words his phrases. It's a wild melody of how he's phrasing his raps. So that was really big. I did listen to the Bryan podcast that you recommended. That was a really cool conversation. Hearing him talk about his infatuation with Run DMC and kind of just where he's come from with like, he went to private school, but he was like he wasn't necessarily like, he was creative and he tried to find ways to get, in trouble, like almost intentionally. Yeah. Like there was a really cool, there was a cool emphasis on just learning about his attitude, how he presents himself. Yeah. So that was really, really cool. And then, going back to RTJ with Run the Jewels, I love Killer Mike, but there were moments in their music where I'm like, man, this guy's just going so damn hard. Yeah. And it's really, really cool. Yeah. On this album in particular, the production is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out if the production was better than the lyrics or the lyrics were better than the production, because it was like just such a well-oiled stream of music. As I said, favorite half of the album, side 3 and 4. It was so badass. $4. Once you get to $4 Vic, man, I'm like, I was just like super into it, and it's, I'll be honest, a lot of my records are more subdued and more chill. More like, they're not bangers by means. Sometimes they're just acoustic, and I like to listen to records when I'm eating, cooking dinner.
Yep.
With my lovely fiance, or like, just trying to, wind down from the day. Mm-hmm. So to throw this on in the morning,
get you moving.
Yeah, and get you moving. I mean, that was something really cool. Big fan of Tougher, Colder, Killer. Obviously with Killer Mike, like being introduced into this world with him and seeing their connection of just how well they go together.
Yep.
And I surely do hope that they come out with more music together. It's one of those things where, like I said, you think you can go your own way and make music the way that you want to make it, and you don't need to be with anybody else. But then when you find somebody that you connect with that way, it's beyond what you would have even ever imagined.
Yeah,
you can hear that in the music. So that was really big.
Like you and Tyler.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that too. Yeah, with my bandmate Tyler Hood, there is a chemistry that you have to hone in on and take advantage of it. Yeah, and they definitely do that.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a really great album. I did really enjoy it. It was one of those things where it's one of those albums where, like I said, I don't necessarily spend as much time with this style of music. I mean, I am a big, Childish Gambino fan, love Kendrick Lamar, Chance the Rapper. I mean, I'm a fan of rap and hip hop, especially 2000s hip hop. Ryan and I are huge fans. We throw shit down. We just saw Missy Elliott a few weeks ago. So like
and Busta.
Yeah, and Busta Rhymes. I mean, it was, and Sierra. I mean, and Timbaland was there. I mean, it was nuts. Yeah. So I am a fan. So it was cool to dive in into it more. I will say so there, just in particular, because the last episode I talked about, kind of diving into the lyrics. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to I think we're okay to legally like recite lyrics, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to go ahead and read this out loud from $4 Vic.
Yeah.
Because it just blew me away. Right. And it totally encapsulates the element of everything that he was bringing into this album. Mm-hmm. This album is dedicated to Camu Tao, and this goes out to the maniacs and aristocrat grifters, to the zealots, to the monarchs, what up brainiacs, compulsively acidic rainiacs, repulsively predictable paniacs, to the liars, for the devil's night fires, same to you too, town crier, top of the morning, morbid, quite a day we're having, gorgeous, salutations unimportant, hello uninspired, I thought I'd drop on by and wish you all the luck desired, I wish you all the souls your little mouth can tuck inside, you always be that special part of me that loves to dine on grinning void. So flirty, touches dizzy, lust I must imbibe. And what a team we made. There's nothing we can't justify, but I am the sun disgust entrusted with the undefined, and I can no longer contain what's under my disguise. I've always had the cancer for the cure. That's what the fuck am I? I'm still living like a $4 Vic.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man.
It was just I had to listen to that back a couple times. Mm-hmm. Stay Down. That's a really great hit. Yeah, just overall great album. I absolutely enjoyed it. I was entertained. It's not. I think in comparison to what listening to Black Ribbons, and then listening to this. There is, I can tell the vibe of like, what your record collection is. Yeah. And that's really cool.
I'm so glad you picked up on that.
So okay. Yeah, so I'm picking up more and more I'm picking up more on what you love beyond what I already know you love.
Sure.
And I think that's what's
Sure.
making this
Yes.
podcast really special. Is
Yes.
like we are tapping into music that we don't really know
Yeah.
that we both love.
Yes.
I mean, obviously you knew that I love Zach Bryan, but now you know why.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even if you might not connect with it, you have an understanding as to where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing here with LP.
We are close enough friends that we text every day.
Yeah.
Several times a day.
Sure.
And yet I feel like I'm getting to know you on a deeper level because of this process.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So overall, it really did say a lot about the type of music that you're into. So, overall, like, why did you choose LP for me?
Well, I figured, I think that one thing that I wanted to do was I love hip hop, and it's something that I don't think most people who know me casually, or who maybe even people who listen to my show and know me like parasocially, realize how much I love hip hop. I'm not an expert. I don't know it as well as I know Americana or country music or even bluegrass, but I absolutely adore it. And it was formative for me, and it opened my mind. Like growing up in a small town, mid-sized town in Florida, and really having like a very conservative upbringing. I've spent most of my adult life trying to get away from a lot of the things that I was raised on, and a lot of the things that the uglier parts, not
Sure.
the beautiful parts. There's plenty of beauty where I grew up as well. But hip hop, I knew what Islam was because of Nas.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
Like, and there's just so many examples I could give over and over and over again of the education that I got through hip hop. I was an Outkast fanatic. I was a Nas fanatic.
Hell yeah.
I had all the records. I knew the words to every song. Like, I loved Biggie and Tupac. You mentioned Timbaland earlier. The Timbaland and Magoo record was one of my favorite albums as a kid, as a teenager in high school. Busta. I could go on and on about these artists, and so I listened to a fuck ton of hip hop, especially in my teen. When I heard LP for the first time, I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, this is unlike anything I've ever heard. Yeah. And you kind of tapped into a lot of the reasons why I connect with this record. But also I'm so glad you mentioned Black Ribbons, and I'm so glad you mentioned the intensity of Cancer for Cure. LP solo records are that way. They're incredibly intense. They are dystopian, and I think I sort of hinted at this or talked a little bit about this on our first episode, but I think people my age, being raised sort of at the end of the Cold War, where we were in the back of our minds always worried about a nuclear attack from the Soviet Union.
Sure.
As a kid, that's pretty fucking terrifying. And so from a very early age, I was really drawn to dystopian novels and films, post-apocalyptic novels and films, end-of-the-world kind of stuff. Also growing up in the Baptist church, a lot of doomsday kind of talk from the pulpit.
Okay. This
record is sort of cathartic for me because it takes a lot of those elements and it puts it into a beautiful package. A really intense, beautiful package, but a beautiful package. It feels in some ways like a companion to Black Ribbons. There's a lot of talking about drones over Brooklyn and like all these kind of wild, ideas and I think these like terrifying ideas, that felt very real growing up. It felt very real to me that the end of the world was coming. And so this record comes out when I'm 32 years old. It's that same time that we're talking about, or 31 or 32. It's 2012 or 2013. I can't exactly remember, but it's that same time.
2012.
2012. Okay.
Well, because Run the Jewels came out, they blew up in
2013. Yeah.
I saw them at Bonner.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So that's that same time period that I always rave about and how important that time in music is. And I think this record I really connected with because I was devouring records. Like at that time, I was just listening to so much music. Last time we talked about how much Sturgill I was listening to and Isbell and the Truckers and all that stuff. This is one of those records that was in a heavy rotation at the time. And I think all the things that I don't want to, just repeat what you said, but you seem to have connected with it the same way that I have been since 2012, which is
Definitely.
like the production is there. His flows are completely different from anybody else. He's completely unique. His lyrics are different from anybody else. I like the comparisons that you made because there is a sort of world in which those folks exist, but it's kind
MF
of
Doom. Sorry, MF Doom was another one.
Oh yeah, sure. And I was
It
heavy
just
into
hit
MF Doom
me-
back
just
then
hit
too.
me now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was heavy
Rest
into
in
MF
peace,
Doom back
yeah.
then. Yeah. Hell yeah. All that stuff. Like some of it's kind of nerdy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's a little nerdy. It's a little bookish.
It's like too cool for school
yeah.
rap.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like
Yeah. And I think also like because LP, and I don't know how people who study hip hop or think about hip hop would feel about the statement I'm about to make, but I do think that LP was more accessible to me because his upbringing was similar to mine. And so I think that like when I listen to something from Nas, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
But I can't connect with how Nas
Yeah.
grew up. You know, I can connect with how Biggie grew up. I can sort of connect with how Jamie grew up. You know, like there's just an element of it that I get, and maybe there's a personal level on which I can sort of connect with him. And the fact that he works so closely with Killer Mike, and who I adore and respect on so many levels, and I think is brilliant. The fact that they work so well together is inspiring to me as I think about overcoming the way that I was raised in this environment that was bigoted, that was exclusive and not inclusive in any meaningful way, from what I experienced at least. And so this record just, and all his solo records. Now, I love the RTJ stuff too. I've got a couple of them on vinyl.
Hell yeah.
And I have a lot of memories. I saw them live at Big Guava Fest a few years ago. Well, I guess that's been like probably almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
Shortly after the first Run the Jewels record came out, they played Big Guava Fest. But I think, overall, it has all the elements, as you mentioned, all the elements of records that I really deeply connect with.
Totally.
It's dystopian. It's pretty intense. When you see me outwardly, generally speaking, I'm probably pretty chill most of the time. But there's a fucking to quote John Moreland, there's a grass fire burning in the back of my mind all the time, and I've learned how to control it, and I've learned how to present myself appropriately. It's not that I'm lying to the world. It's just that I am pretty chill just sitting here. But when I'm alone, I'm freaking out about death.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out about my existence.
Yeah.
And a record like this gives a voice to that. It helps me to understand. It helps me to articulate what I'm feeling, and in terms of like on a global scale, when you zoom out on a macro scale, sort of how I'm feeling all the time.
And it definitely shows. It definitely shows that you are in tune with yourself through the music that you listen to, and you champion the artists that, like you just said, like you champion the artists that you relate to and connect with. I mean, that's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah.
As people who appreciate music, or we listen to music, or we just love music in entirely and in so many different ways. It really goes a long way, and it shows with you through your podcast and through, the music that you're sharing on your Instagram story of who you're listening to. Mm-hmm. I think this again goes back to the idea that, like you said, you want everybody to understand that your knowledge and love for music goes way beyond what everybody might hear through the marinade.
Yeah.
That we all have phases.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I had a very big boom in middle school where I just wanted to listen to anything that had cursing in it.
Mm-hmm.
That was an era for me.
Mm-hmm.
Big era that it took a lot to get out of.
Yeah.
I had to move to Florida to really start to become more well-rounded again, like as I was when I was younger, when my mom and my dad, my brother were introducing me to music.
Yeah.
So much different kinds of music. Then you get sucked into what you really start to love and you dig, and you want more and more and more of that.
Yeah.
Then you start to miss the bigger picture of like, oh man, what was it? And that kind of goes hand in hand with why, like, I'm loving Creed right now. I mean, I know that like it's just because
somebody
it's
has to.
I don't know about. I mean, a lot of people do, but you know, it's that it's going back. I think I'm in a very much a nostalgic phase right now, where I'm you know, I think I've always told myself I need to keep listening to new music so that I stay with it, and B, like I'm keeping my mind open to what's out there.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
again, that kind of goes with Zach Bryan, is like, I want to be in tune with what is happening in my genre.
Yeah.
And what am I connecting with the most? Well, it's that guy.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's nice to dive back into the music that has created us, you know, like it developed who we've become as people. You know, I mean, of course you're raised by your parents or your family or, you know, whomever, your guardian, whoever's like raised you, but like we're also raised on music. We're raised on a certain style of music, certain tastes, and that for me, I would like it to be never ending. You know, I think there are people who get kind of stuck into what they enjoy. Like, I really like this music and I don't need to go anywhere else. And that's cool.
Fine.
That is totally fine. Cool.
Yep.
There's
no judgment
wrong
on
with
that.
that.
Yeah.
I think for
100%.
me, I just need more. I want more of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And that's helping me, you know, broaden my horizons, you know, and I think coming out of a small town outside of Pittsburgh, where it was the same kids that I grew up with, you know, from a very young age all the way into high school, and then coming down to Orlando, Florida, and meeting people from all over the world. Yeah. You know, that was a big life lesson for me of like, wow, like there's so much more. There's so much more. And so that's like musically, that's how my life grew. Yeah. You know, it was with the music. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really cool to hear you talk about, you know, the dystopian factor. Also, real quick, have you read the Dark Tower series?
I haven't, no.
I haven't read all of them.
I do like, it's a Stephen King, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like Stephen King.
Gunslinger is a really good book.
Okay, I'll check it out.
If you're into, it's kind of weird, kind of trippy. Yeah, I mean, some of it might be a little.
I can do weird and trippy.
It's tacky every once in a while, but it's good writing.
Okay.
Stephen King. I mean,
I like Stephen King
obviously knocked it out of the park, you know, numerous times. I love the Dark series or Dark Tower series. So, yeah.
Cool, I'll check it out.
Follow us, you know, Life's Greatest Hits.
Yep.
I do manage the Instagram handle. I'm posting songs of the week, songs that I'm listening to that I'm getting down with at the moment. I post lyrics that are compelling. Jason Earle's also taken over, you know, a couple times and shared stuff as well. But the whole idea of Life's Greatest Hits is ultimately to share the music that's the music that is my greatest hits. What are my favorite songs of my whole life? Yeah. I have a playlist on Spotify called Life's Greatest Hits, where from the jump, what are songs that I've loved since I was a kid? Yeah. Up until now. What songs over the years or within just this year alone am I really getting down with to the point where they deserve to be in Life's Greatest Hits? So, you know, just to kind of give that overall spiel, like we're just two dudes who really love vinyl. We've been going to some record stores together. It's been a lot of fun. Went to a record store that is sadly closing here in Orlando. Shout out to East West Records. But we got ourselves some pretty good shit. It was a nice little grab bag there. We grabbed some good stuff. So you know, we are music appreciators. We love vinyl. And we just want to connect with you. So, you know, if you are interested in getting involved and want to talk to us directly, shoot us a message and let us know what kind of music you're into.
Follow us on Twitter also. We have a Twitter account now. So it's just LGH Pod. You can follow us over there. And I'm managing that account and trying to post as often as possible and keep y'all updated about the show. Make sure you follow Jordan Foley in the Wheelhouse. Make sure you follow the Marinade at Marinade Podcast on all the platforms. We're both on all the things, except I'm not on Facebook. But you can find me everywhere else. So let's tease the next one, man. First of all, this is a fucking blast.
This is a great episode. Yeah, great conversation.
Thank you.
I'm loving that we're taking the time to do this. Yeah, it's very special. So.
Tell me about what you got for me.
So the one I have for you, if you want to grab it. Yeah. So this one, you know, Jason and I had talked. You and I had talked when we first. We're diving into like what albums have we not listened to? Yeah. And you had told me that you do know a lot of Frank Sinatra. Yeah. But this album in particular it's in the wee small hours, and this is basically Frank Sinatra's emo phase. This is his Heartbreak album.
Okay.
So I have a lot of reasons as to why this is my favorite Frank Sinatra album.
Cool.
And I just, I know that you're a very open dude. You wear your heart on your sleeve, in your episodes, and you've had some shit happen.
Quite well
in your
reported.
life. Yeah.
Heartbreaks lately.
Yeah, you've been dealing with some stuff, and so not to like tease or give too much away for the reason as to why I chose this one. It's because it's gotten me through a lot.
That physical copy is really pretty.
Yeah, I got this at a record store down on Mills. That what's that one across from Will's Pub?
Remix.
Yes, I got it at Remix.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's got green disc and everything. So yeah, it's a really good album. I love that album. So
awesome.
Yeah, what you got for me?
I got Sweet Unknown by Erica Winterstrom.
Woo-wee.
Erica Winterstrom of Heartless Bastards fame. And this record, again, I'm not going to go into the details of why it means so much to me, but it's going to blow your fucking mind.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's really
I do
cool.
love the Heartless Bastards. I love Heartless Bastards music. So
yeah, it's a solo record that she, the band kind of took a hiatus for a few reasons, and she made this solo record. A lot of it is coming out of an ayahuasca trip that she took right after a 9-year relationship ended.
Wow.
So, I bought this particular copy when she opened for the Drive-By Truckers at the Plaza, which is, for folks listening, just a few blocks from where Jordan and I are currently recording. And I got to interview her for the Marinade.
Very cool.
Ahead of her set. Backstage, and Patterson Hood walked by and in the green room and took a shower, and while I was interviewing Erica Winterstrom, which was like a surreal moment for me, being like an obsessive Drive-By Truckers fan.
Man, I gotta say real quick, Tyler Hood and I saw Patterson Hood at Tuffy's. You were there.
I was there, yeah.
And Tyler's last name is Hood.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Tyler, I will get your next drink if you yell out, "Dad! Dad, I'm right here, Dad!" He's like, no. We did get to meet him later, which was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I've never actually met him. I've just sort of waved at him on his way to the shower.
Yeah.
Man,
this is great.
Such a blast. Everybody, we're going to be doing these once a month, as Jordan mentioned. Thank you all for being on this ride. I 100% agree with Jordan. Send us some messages, on socials. Tell us what you want to hear on the show. We're having a blast doing it, and we're so grateful to each of you who listen.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you.
Cheers.